Satan, also known as the devil, is a well-known figure in the religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Interestingly, Satan wasn't originally present in the ancient Jewish Bible and only emerged later during the Persian Achaemenid Empire around 550 BC. The name Satan comes from the Hebrew ha-Satan, where ha means the and Satan means opponent or adversary. Reflecting his role as an opponent to God's creation, the concept of Satan developed gradually over time. Evil has always existed, ranging from natural disasters to artificial atrocities. In building religious faiths, people needed to explain and justify the existence of evil. Many ancient creation myths attributed both good and evil to a supreme God, highlighting omnipotence. In Deuteronomy 28, God is portrayed as having control over both prosperity and suffering. The emergence of Satan and the exploration of the origin of evil are intertwined with the need to understand and explain the challenges and hardships faced by humanity throughout history. The story of Genesis is like an argument against the beliefs of the ancient Mesopotamians, who thought their gods caused evil. In their creation myth, in Ma-Elish, gods were seen as unpredictable and made humans just to serve them. In contrast, the God in Genesis is shown as thoughtful with a plan, creating everything as good. The Adam and Eve story explains that evil came from humans disobeying, leading to struggles and pain. The worst punishment was losing immortality, bringing death to all descendants. People often thought of gods like their own rulers. Kings had courts with high and low officials. In Judaism, angels were the higher ones, while Greek demons, once neutral, were blamed for evil over time. Genesis tells of God speaking to his court, the angels, while creating the earth. In various belief systems, gods engaging in relationships with women, like Zeus in Greek mythology, were common. However, the Israelite tradition disapproved of such behavior because they believed it could result in the serious sin of idolatry. The Book of Job, written around 600 BC, is the oldest text that deals with the question: if God is good, why is there evil and suffering? It starts with angels reporting to God, including one named Ha-Satan. His job is to create challenges for humans, making them choose between good and evil, like a prosecutor for God. When Satan talks about Job, God believes Job won't turn away, so they make a bet. Job loses everything, but he stays faithful to God, despite his friends saying he must have sinned. Job gets sick, loses his kids, and his friends say it's because he sinned. Job insists he didn't do wrong, and he asks God for an explanation. God answers from a whirlwind, basically saying, "Who are you to question me?" Job realizes God's power, humbles himself, and admits he can't understand everything. In other parts of Jewish scriptures, Ha-Satan appears rarely, usually opposing humans rather than God. For example, in Eden, the serpent plays a similar role, giving Adam and Eve a choice. The prophets often blame evil on people's idolatry, emphasizing that God remains in control while punishing Israel. When the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem in 587 BC, some Jews were taken to Babylon. Later, Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon in 550 BC, creating the Persian Empire. The Persians followed Zoroastrianism, seeing evil as the opposite of good. Ahura Mazda was the good source, and Angra Mainyu represented chaos. Cyrus allowed Jews to return to Jerusalem in 539 BC, and they mixed Persian beliefs with their own, transforming Ha-Satan into just Satan, or the devil, blaming all evil on him, instead of God. The Essenes, a Jewish sect at Qumran around 150 BC, wrote about the personification of evil. They linked Satan with anyone opposing their views, including other Jews. According to them, Satan controlled demons, sending them to possess those in darkness to commit evil. The Essenes named Satan's agents, like Belial and Beelzebub, adding hierarchy and functions in Satan's court. Apocalyptic texts in the Dead Sea Scrolls, like the books of Enoch and Jubilees, provided more details. Fallen angels, condemned for teaching humans, were chained in the abyss. In Jubilees, Satan was called Mastema, a fallen angel who rebelled against God but continued to tempt humans with God's permission. This highlights the belief that Satan's actions were allowed by God's omnipotence. In the letters of Paul and the Gospels, it's believed that Satan is now the ruler of the world. Paul's disciple advises putting on the full armor of God to stand against the devil's schemes. Paul often spoke of demons as agents of Satan, interfering with his work. In Mark's Gospel, written around 70 CE, Jesus is portrayed as a charismatic exorcist, battling against the devil's rule on earth. Mark describes Jesus being tempted by Satan in the wilderness, and both Matthew and Luke expand on this scene, showing Jesus resisting temptations. Mark and other Gospels present those opposing Jesus as under Satan's influence. In John, Satan enters Judas to betray Jesus, and the blame for Jesus' death reaches its peak, labeling the Jews as children of the devil. The Book of Revelation, written by John of Patmos around 90 to 100 CE, envisions God intervening in human affairs, punishing Rome for persecuting Christians. Satan is said to be chained in hell, working through agents like the beast and the deceiver. The followers of the deceiver are identified by the sign of 666. In Revelation, Satan remains chained for most of the book, but is released for the final battle after Christ's 1,000-year reign. Ironically, Christ, depicted as a lamb, defeats Satan, who is then thrown into the lake of fire, symbolized as the Dead Sea. This imagery emphasizes the ultimate triumph of good over evil. In the Acts of the Apostles, Luke said that Hades couldn't keep Jesus after he was crucified. In 1 Peter 3, it's mentioned that Jesus spoke to spirits who disobeyed in the past, and the gospel was preached to those who are now dead. Later, around the 2nd century CE, more details were added to explain what Jesus did between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, and how righteous people from the past could be saved without knowing Jesus. While Jesus' body was in the grave, his soul went to hell where he fought Satan for the souls of the righteous. When the stone rolled away, these righteous souls like Adam, Noah, and others came back with him. The belief that Christ descended into hell and rose again on the third day became part of the Nicene Creed in the 4th century CE. In the Middle Ages, this story became known as the harrowing of hell, with harrow meaning a raid or incursion like Viking raids. In the 2nd century CE, Christian leaders used the personification of evil against various groups like Jews, women, and heretics. They saw native cults temples as agents of Satan. The first images of Satan were inspired by Pan, a Greco-Roman deity with a human goat appearance. This is where Satan got his hooves and horns. The portrayal also included a phallus, initially black and later associated with hellfire in red. During this time, the story of the fall was reinterpreted, identifying the serpent as the devil and emphasizing Eve's role as the primary sinner. Misogynistic views linked Eve's seduction by the serpent to the shame of all women. In religious traditions like Celtic beliefs, characteristics of horned gods and figures associated with the rule over the dead contributed to Satan's image. So, there you have it, the fascinating evolution of Satan, from a divine tester in the book of Job to the ruler of the world in the New Testament. The narrative weaves through ancient civilizations, biblical tales, and cultural influences, offering us a multifaceted understanding of this enigmatic figure. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.